Greetings and welcome to this episode of the Heal and Restore podcast with the host and hostess with the mostest, Randy and Cathy Boyd.
Well, hello, everybody, and thank you. I like being the hostess with the most.
Yeah, no, I got to make it that way, I got to say it even sometimes when I have a hard time believing it, but it's always true.
Yeah,
It's
thanks.
always true. Okay.
Thank
Yeah,
you for that.
I give you the credit.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Silly girl. You are silly.
I
So,
know, but you love that about me.
last week we talked about what was it we talked about last week?
Oh my gosh, that was a whole week
It just slipped my mind. Oh, for goodness sake.
I don't know, but it must have been good, huh?
It must have been. I'll think of it, yeah.
Yeah.
But anyways, it ties in with what we're doing today.
Yeah.
And today we're going to talk about actions equal change. Actions equals change.
That's a tough one because so many times we just want change to take place. We don't realize that there's work on our part.
Yeah.
So we've learned that over the years. And
Yes,
so
we have.
we get this opportunity to kind of share some of our experiences
Yeah.
that got us from where we were to where we are today.
And, we've learned, like Cathy said, we learned it from our experiences, but also now we're seeing the benefits of action versus non-action with our clients.
Yeah. No,
Right. And
absolutely.
there's a definite difference in it. The ones that are really taking the action and doing the hard work, their relationships are getting a ton better.
Yeah.
So we've only had a couple that don't do it.
Right. But I think too, one of the things that's really important to remember is a lot of times we personally ourselves don't always see the change.
Right.
Other people see it
Right.
in us before we see it in
Exactly.
others. And I think that's what we're noticing is how true that truly is. Because I remember thinking, I'm just me, nothing, I'm
Right.
not any different.
Right. We don't know. We don't see the change.
Right. But until other people started pointing out the things that had changed, then it's almost empowering at that point once you hear it from others. So
And that's why it's important, really important, to have a strong mentor that the way Cathy and I mentor our clients is that a lot of positive. They make mistakes, and okay, what are we going to learn from that mistake? Cathy's a big cheerleader when people fall down in the valley, because we're always going to find out. We're going to find the one positive. There's actually a lot of positives that come out of it.
I've got long arms, so I like to reach.
She likes to reach. So it's like we focus on the positive that we see in the changes, even in some of the rough times that our clients go through.
Yeah.
And too often, I'm going to say this because this is who I am. And people think that by giving their life to Christ, the changes are automatically going to happen, right? And that's not true. There might be some minor things that are going to change, but Dr. Mate, Gabor Mate said this, right? What is recovery? It's finding something again, right? Well, how are we going to find? Just take anything. I got to recover my car keys. Well, how am I going to recover them if I sit with my hands in a chair all day long and don't do nothing?
That's
right?
Good.
So I have to get up and I have to look for them, right? So what happens in recovery, I find the keys again, or better yet, in personal recovery. And we're not talking about drugs and alcohol. They're just a symptom of all these other issues we talk about. What do I find? I find the person. I find myself, the person that God created in the first place.
Yeah.
Without all those labels attached to it, right? And that's where the action takes place.
Right.
And we can even go, I think this is probably, when it comes to this kind of conversation, this is probably the most important one. In my eyes, the most important verse.
Yeah.
Romans 12:2, and do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind.
Yeah.
There's 3 action words in there: conform, transform, and renewing. Okay. So renewing, you're in the process of renewing your mind on a daily basis. We have to remember that we've got how many years of garbage thinking, garbage behavior that in our eyes we thought was okay.
And it might have been for a while.
It might have been for a while. It got us to where we're at today, so we're not going to beat ourselves up for that. But how many years of that kind of thinking do we have ingrained in us?
That we need to change.
So that's what we're having to change. So therefore, to me, the most important thing right here, do not be conformed to this world or the ways of this world,
Mhm.
right? If you're still hanging with people that are partying, drugging, bar hopping, womanizing, do all that stuff, but that's not what you want to be anymore.
Time to transform.
It's time to the first step is you have to quit conforming to the ways of the world.
Yeah.
You got to tell people, I love you guys, but I can't be doing this anymore.
Mhm.
I got to find myself. I'm about ready to lose everything. Whatever you got to do, you've got to find another community
Yeah.
of healthy, like-minded people to help you transform and renew your mind.
Yeah.
I mean, Roy did it for
Yeah.
me. I talk about this often.
Yeah.
The first AA meeting I had to go to was after our meetings at Betty Ford. And Roy, who became my CODA sponsor after a while, he met me there, and I didn't even know who he was. He put his hand on my shoulder, and he said, "Randy, you're enough, and I love you."
Yeah. I love
And
that.
every time I saw Roy, and he didn't know me, I didn't know him, but he knew something about me. But every time I saw Roy, that's what he would do. And
Right.
finally, 3 or 4 years into it, he was my CODA mentor. I said, "Roy,
Yeah.
why did you do that? What was all that about?" He goes,
Mhm.
"Randy, because you're enough. You're not more than, you're not less than. We are all equal people when it comes in the eyes of Christ. We are all equal on this earth.
Yeah.
Titles are just titles, right? And you're lovable. A
Mhm.
lot of people love you. You're very well loved, and you're a very lovable person." I didn't believe that stuff about me.
But it took somebody like him to renew your mind
Right.
because he helped you transform and renew your mind by speaking it over you over and
And
over
over
and
and
over
over
again.
again. And just like my sponsor in AA,
Mhm.
Way Spiritual,
Same.
it's the same
Yeah.
thing. These guys were both older gentlemen. They've walked in my shoes in many instances,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so I had to quit conforming to my old ways and find a new way of living that was going to benefit the lifestyle, the life that I wanted to start
Right.
living,
Yeah.
right? And it's a process.
It's
It
a
takes
process,
time.
but I'm gonna just jump in here real quick because there's things that we both learned in our own journey of recovery,
Right.
are the first 3 steps. And those first 3 steps is really the foundation to begin the process of not conforming,
Absolutely.
transforming, and renewing. And we have to first get to a place where we admit. We admit that we're powerless over our problems, our lives have become unmanageable, we're tired of living this way.
Right.
We want to change. So we have to admit that there's a problem and we can't change.
And I think that well, yeah, you could go through that whole question or that slow statement, Catherine, and say, "Well, I need to change."
Mhm.
Well, of course you need to change.
Yeah, we all know
Everybody
that.
can see that. The key is though, do you want to change?
Right.
And how badly do you want
So
to
you
change?
have to admit and then take
And
action.
then take action.
Yeah,
It
and that's
doesn't mean you're less of a man or a woman when you admit that you're having
no,
problems. That's just the way the world looks at it, and it's
this is the
wrong.
first step to getting to a
A-
place of change. So,
Absolutely.
and then we have to believe that there's something greater than us, that there's a power greater than ourselves that can restore us back
Right.
to sanity. And sanity being that healthy way of life, that healthy way of thinking, that healthy way of communicating and behaving in our life, not just with our significant other, but our entire family,
At work,
coworkers. Yeah, no, it doesn't
everything.
matter. We have to believe that, we can't do this by ourselves. And that's the beauty of this is not only do we need God in our lives, but we need a community of like-minded people that are going to journey with us. And we're going to talk about some of the steps that we can
Right.
take to do that
Exactly.
transformation later, which will include some of that.
But insanity means doing the same thing over and over,
Hmm.
expecting different results, and that's what many of us, including Kathy and I,
Hmm.
we did for many years. I'll
Yeah.
just do it my way, and it doesn't work. So you've got to get to that point where the first step there that, okay, I'm done. I've got to be able to admit that I need help and that
Hmm.
I'm powerless. I can't do this by myself anymore.
Yeah.
All right, and then you got to be. Here's the other part of that too. Open willing, you have to have a lot of open willingness, and you have to be very
Hmm.
open-minded on this journey
Right.
because it's a new way of life. You're gonna get
And you're going
uncomfortable.
to find new things and you're going to think, nah, that's not for me. But you know what? It's stuff that's worked, right?
Right,
People that have gone
exactly.
before us. And then the last,
Well, change is uncomfortable,
yeah,
period, and
yeah,
if you're not uncomfortable, you're doing something wrong.
right. And then the third step of this whole process is we made a decision to turn our life and our will over to the care of God.
Right.
So it's just one of those things where we realize we're not alone, we can't do it alone, and we have to be able to turn ourselves over and step out of our own will and into God's will for us.
So I want to clarify this bit on here on the third one Cathy just read, because we took out the word "as you understand God" because we believe that still, right? But people they've taken that "as we understand God"
Yeah.
and made it a tree or a door handle or a deer, and that's not what this is talking about. We're talking about God, G-O-D, God the Father, Yahweh. The God of my understanding when I got into recovery was one that was evil. He was molesting me, beating me, abusing me, and he was throwing lightning bolts at me. That's what I believed because what I was taught. That was the understanding of God I had. Through the process of recovery, I found out that's not God at all.
No.
My God is one that's loving, forgiving, discerning, all the compassionate, right?
We have to be open-minded to look differently. And
Absolutely.
that's what's helped you through this.
And what did I take? 2 or 3 years that I was doing my own investigating, just questioning everything?
Yeah.
Right? So, we're talking about the one God that there really is,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
And that's just we're not gonna apologize for that.
No, no. So there's steps that we have to take for personal change to transform ourselves. And
Yes.
so part of that, we're going to just go through a handful of them
Yeah,
here,
yeah.
because there's some structured steps that will help guide us through the process. And, we know a lot of these have worked. We've stepped into a lot of them ourselves. Some of them are new. Some of them might be new to you, and that's okay. But we're going to share definitely how they've affected us. And the first one is so, so important. I'm such an outward thinker, but I had to really get into a self-assessment, and that's hard for some people.
Gotta look at yourself.
Yeah, we have to identify areas of change. We have to know, first of all, what do I want to change?
Yeah, exactly.
How can I improve these things? Whether it's a habit, whether it's a behavior, it's a mindset. We're talking about renewing of our minds. So we have to first identify what areas do we want to change.
And I think that's what, like Cathy says, we have to be open-minded. We must quit pointing the finger at everybody else, that it's their fault.
It's
They
an
wouldn't have
inward.
done this. They wanted to. Cathy and I have been there,
Yeah.
right? And the reality is that nobody can make us do, say, or feel anything we don't want to
Yeah.
do, say, or feel.
Yeah.
We're gonna feel that way. They might say something that triggers something from our past that makes us feel that way, but it's coming from within, not
Right.
from without.
Yeah.
So it's where we need to start really looking inward, because remember, if we're pointing a finger at one person, there's 3 more pointing back at
Well,
us.
and I like to look at it this way. If I inward thinking requires action. So
Yes.
you're taking a step right there for that inward thinking.
And that we understand that can be scary because now you're looking at some truths down on some paper.
Yeah.
And you
All of
have
a
to
sudden
put
they're
this on
real.
all of a sudden everything's
Yeah.
real to you.
So
And it's okay.
yeah.
It's fine.
No, and I like this part too, is we have to be able to reflect on what our motivations are. Ask ourselves, why does this change matter? Does it align with my values?
Mm.
Motivation is rooted in personal values is more likely to lead to the sustained change. And I think that that's one thing is when we have to identify what our personal values are. And once we know what those are, we're more likely not only to make the change, but sustain the change
And you'll discover a lot of those values as
in the process.
in the process
Yeah.
of this, right? And we hear too often, "Well, it's just the way I am. If you don't like it, it's too bad." No, 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 no,
Mm-mm.
no, no, no. This is where we have to start listening to our spouses, people around us that we trust that are
The
concerned about us.
influencers in our life.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And if they're saying something, then we need to take a look at it and come out of denial.
Yeah, and sometimes you may look at it and say, "Oh, I'm not sure about that, but okay, let me think about
Yeah,
it. Let me
yeah,
let me process a
absolutely.
little bit of
Yeah.
that."
I
So,
mean,
but the other thing that's really important in these steps too is to acknowledge our strengths and weaknesses.
yes, absolutely, 100%.
We have to understand that our strengths can leverage us
Yes,
and our weaknesses may require more attention. That's all they are. A weakness is
exactly.
not like, "Oh no, you can't think that way or you can't do that way." Maybe that weakness just requires us to look at it a little deeper or a little different
A little different
direction.
direction,
Yeah.
exactly. These defects, not all of them are gonna be bad. We have to remember that you got to where you're at, where you are in
Mhm.
life today as a result of
Strengths and
the
weaknesses.
strength and weaknesses that you've had throughout your life, okay? And if you're listening to this podcast, you're more than likely got to the point to where your strengths just ain't working no more. Yeah,
Yeah.
and so this is where we have to really start opening our eyes and our ears, our hearts and our minds to
To
those
what's
people,
not working.
to not what's not working.
Mhm.
And when people sit down and they can have a conversation with you without you becoming all defensive,
Right.
that's when you need to start listening.
Yeah. Yeah.
And nobody told me I had to do what I did. I knew I had to do it, so
You just were open-minded to
yeah,
take direction, and
yeah,
that's the
exactly,
key to
exactly.
the action and change. So, one of the things we've talked about this on several different podcasts, and it's always something that's important is having specific goals. Set those goals. Use the SMART goals to ensure that your goals are smart, specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound. We got to have some goals to make those changes. And one of the ways that I know you encourage people to do it is to break down those big goals into smaller goals. They're more manageable, they don't
Yeah,
become
yeah,
overwhelming. And it builds momentum. I think they're empowering when you can when you have a big goal broken down into small goals and you reach that first small goal, that's an empowering moment to push you forward to the next small
exactly.
goal.
I'll look at it like my recovering Alcoholics Anonymous, right? I'd sit in that room, people suddenly have, 1 year, 2 year, 5 year,
That's
10 year. I
good.
go, "Oh my god, are you kidding? How do you stay sober that long?" So you set the goal on it, I'll make it a year. But in between that year,
Yeah.
what are the steps that I have to take to make it to that 1 year? So then I break it down to 1 month.
Hmm.
Okay, I just gotta stay sober, and then I'll break it down to the day. Okay, I just can't drink today.
Hmm.
I just can't drink today. I don't wanna drink today. I can't drink today. You just don't drink for the day, and you keep doing that, and next thing you know, you have your 30 day. Now you wanna make it to 2 months. So what do I gotta do? I keep doing the same, just don't drink today, but more importantly, hopefully you have a good, they call them sponsors, I call them mentors, whatever you wanna call them, and you're working the steps so you're progressing forward,
Yeah.
right? So you can get rid of these underlying, remember in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous and several other
Hmm.
professionals, alcohol and drugs are not the problem.
Right.
They're a symptom of much deeper underlying issues, which 99% of the time is unresolved childhood traumas or adult trauma of
Yeah,
some
some
sort
sort
or
of
another.
trauma of
Right.
some sort. But yeah, no, that's a really good way to look at a goal. Is a really good example, I guess, of breaking down the large goal to the small goal. But the other thing that really comes into play here is visualizing your success. Imagine how achieving that will change your outlook, how you feel, reinforcing your commitment and your excellence to what you're wanting to achieve, and the excitement of it all. I mean, that's and not only then you become your cheerleader, you're becoming a cheerleader for others
Right.
when they can see that you're breaking those large goals into small
Yeah.
goals and you're kicking their butts.
Yeah. Because people are watching.
Yeah, people are watching.
This just reminds me of the visualizing, right? Because I remember when I was at Betty Ford outpatient, and I just now realized it was setting a goal. I don't know why I never thought of it this way, but we had an assignment where we needed to write down 3 things that we wanted to, um, achieve. I think it was 3 things in the next year.
Right.
Write them down on a piece of paper, and then fold that piece of paper up, put them in an envelope, and then
I could put a date on it
I
to
you
open
had to
it.
open it, it was a year from, just say May 1st, I'm just gonna say that. So, May 1st, 2006, I'm gonna open it on May 1st, 2007.
Mhm.
And I can tell you this, I forgot about it,
Yeah.
and a couple days later, I found it and I opened it. And out of the 3 things,
That was probably God reminding you it
oh,
was just a
yeah,
couple days
yeah,
later.
just a couple days later, right? Me and my perfectionism. Um, 2 of the things, I wanted my family restored, I wanted peace and serenity and to remain sober. Had happened beyond.
Right.
The only thing that didn't happen was I wanted a ranch in the high country, right? That's the one thing I wrote on. That was the big dream that I wanted,
Yeah.
right? I wanted to buy, and that's the only thing that didn't happen.
Now
But
I just thought of that. Was that God's will?
well, you know,
Yeah, it's so good.
exactly. So, but you think the peace and serenity, having our family back together,
Yeah,
having everything
that
resolved,
was all God's will
that was
too.
all God's will right there,
Mhm.
and it all happened,
Yeah,
right? So that's the importance of setting these goals.
yeah.
And you're gonna get discouraged, right? I mean, it's gonna happen.
Along the
That's
way, yeah,
why
definitely.
you're going to. You're gonna trip. That's okay. That's
Yeah,
where a very good mentor is gonna be
yeah,
your
absolutely.
best friend during these
And we're gonna talk
times.
about that because
Yeah.
that's part of this these steps
Sorry, I
too,
keep
and
going.
I know you get excited here. it's a passion. It's on your heart. So the other step in this process is to create an action plan. It's similar to your goals, but you got to list actionable steps.
Yes,
Outline each step needed to reach your goal and making sure each is clear and doable. You want to be very clear on that. It's not just like, I want to stay sober a year. Okay, well, what are you going to do to stay sober a year?
right.
Using that as your example. So you have to
Okay.
actually write out what that's going to look like. And then the next part of this is prioritizing tasks.
Right.
Focus on which steps will make the most significant impact for you to tackle
It
those
it
first two.
yeah, and essentially what it would be is this, I'm just gonna lay it out for the recovery world, is number 1, go to meetings,
Hmm.
right? Number 2, get a mentor or sponsor,
Right?
and number 3, start doing the work. Start
Yeah.
working the steps, start doing the work that's necessary in order to change your life.
Right, and part of that too is setting deadlines,
So,
hold
yeah,
yourself accountable with realistic deadlines to keep on track. That's one of the things that I do with the women that I work with, especially when it comes to step work, is I will assign them a task, and we together come up with a deadline in which we're gonna meet to discuss those
right,
questions, and
right,
so that helps keep things on track. Now, I will tell you, the ones that have not set a deadline 2 weeks in advance, 10 days, whatever that is, we don't hardly ever get started, and in
right,
a lot of cases, we don't get
right,
started. So
exactly.
setting those deadlines to keep yourself
It
motivated and on task and accountable is so important.
and again, one of the biggest things in any kind of recovery, now again, we're talking about recovery of our life, right, is quit doing the things that didn't work.
Yeah.
Right, if instead of, get flying out of bed, 10 minutes late, not making your bed,
Mhm.
throwing clothes on, running out the house, wake up a half hour early, right? Give yourself some time, make your bed before you leave out of your bedroom. Start making these little changes like that. You'll start feeling, I promise
Yeah.
you will start feeling
I love
so
how you
good
just
about
came up
yourself.
with that, honey, because the next area is building supportive habits.
Huh,
You
I
men
told you.
your mind goes on these things, and I love it. But yeah, that's exactly what you're talking about is building those supportive habits. It's so important to identify what those key habits are. Choosing habits that align with your goal and reinforcing the positive behaviors. So like you say, doing the opposite of what you've done in the past. That's going to help support positive reinforcement of those
Right,
behaviors. The other part of this is start small. Don't get yourself so overwhelmed that you stop. Implement small daily changes. They will eventually lead to a routine and larger transformations. Now, I'm going to use this for my own personal situation that I've been experiencing. I am not a gym person. I am not a gym person. I like exercise, I like sports, I like all this, but I've been going to the gym
she's killing it
since
too.
June, and I started small, I did the things that I wanted to do, and then lately, over the last probably 2 or 3 weeks, all I wanted to do is go and do weights with Randy. So I started small, I implemented some daily changes, and now I'm in this transformation of where I kinda, like, love to lift weights. Now I don't wanna do it for an hour and a half, don't get me wrong. I'm still not there, but
No,
I kick out what I my body will allow me to kick out, and I love that part of it.
and I'll tell everybody here, I'm really proud of her because, the other day I said, "Well, don't push yourself." She goes, "I'm pushing myself. Just leave me alone."
Yeah.
So, okay. And she's doing really good. I don't push her. When she says she's had enough, then okay. I'll finish doing what I'm doing and I'll come,
And
and
I
she's
will
good.
admit
She's good with
I will admit, when you would say, "Don't push yourself," that used to be my excuse to stop.
that.
And I'm changing my mindset. I'm transforming my mind on how physical fitness really needs to make a change for my
Alright.
body. So, and then the other part of this too is just tracking your progress. Use a journal or an app to monitor how consistently you're keeping up with the new habits. And I like this at our gym when you check in, I can go to my app and it'll tell me how many days in the month I've been working out.
Yeah,
So I was excited to see two consistent weeks. I think this would have been the third consistent
yeah.
Monday, Wednesday, Friday week. So
Yeah.
otherwise I used to just say, I don't feel like going today. But track it
She's
because
doing
it's
good.
empowering. I know it's working for me.
And Kathy, so we say this to everybody, and everybody fights it, but a journal,
Yeah.
it's gonna be your best friend because when if you're thinking about stuff that's driving you crazy, then you need to put it on paper to get it out of your head.
Yeah.
It's just I've got several. I don't even know where they're all at journals. Kathy's got journals. it's gonna be one of your
Yeah.
best tools to
It really
help
is
you through some tough times.
and it's great to look back at and
Yeah,
see the progress. That's the
exactly,
beautiful of that.
exactly.
So, and then our next part of the steps here is it's important. You got to develop a growth mindset. We have to embrace those challenges. We have to see the obstacles as opportunities to learn. They're not setbacks.
Right.
That's like one of our podcasts we had, failure is not an option. No, don't look at that as a setback. We have to refrain from the negative thoughts. Replace our self-doubt and negative self-talk with constructive positive affirmations. I've been doing that because I like to see the change in how my workouts are affecting my body. And then celebrate the progress, acknowledge and reward even small achievements to keep motivation high. For me, it's like, okay, we can have ice cream today, right? That's how I celebrate. It's a mindset, right?
Mindset, yeah. See, that's a podcast at the beginning that left my head.
But
Failure's not an option.
oh yeah,
So this is kind of that it wasn't the last one we did, it was 2
no,
weeks
2 weeks
ago.
ago, yeah,
But this will tie into that
yeah,
one. And
yeah.
so,
Yeah. And here's my favorite part is to build a supportive network. We
very
have to
important.
surround ourselves with positive influences, sharing our goals with supportive family, friends, mentors, coaches. If we aren't speaking those goals, who's going to hold us accountable? We don't even hold ourselves accountable at that point. So surround yourself. Let your family know, let your friends know, let your mentors know what it is that you're wanting to achieve so that they can hold you accountable. The other part of this too is getting accountability partner, having someone, that can check in with you regularly to help keep you on track. That's been key to a lot of our successes over the years on our own journey of recovery, not just going to the gym. Randy's my
Right.
accountability partner in the gym, but I have women
Right.
that will hold me accountable. I hold them accountable. We are in a constant communication with each other, encouraging each other, lifting each other up, keeping each other in prayer. I mean, it's so important to have people in your
You
lives that will help hold you accountable to the action steps that you want in order to get the
you
change you want.
you don't want people that are just gonna pat you on the back and say,
Mhm.
"Ah, it'll be all right, don't worry about it." No, you need people that are gonna sit there, number one, and listen. I mean, really listen to
Yeah.
hear what you're talking about. Listening with deep curiosity to understand you, to find out how you're feeling, what's really going on. And then you want people that are going to give you feedback,
Yeah, the constructive
right? Because
feedback is so
it's so
important.
important. Yeah, we always talk about the sandwich: positive, constructive, positive. So
Mhm.
you start out by complimenting a person on the positive aspects you see in their growth or whatever, and then some constructive criticism about maybe areas that they're struggling in, maybe they can do differently.
Yeah,
And then again, you're going to end it on that positive note about, hey, you've come a really long way. Keep doing what you're doing. It's a tough journey, but you're doing good.
yeah,
It's a positive, constructive,
yeah,
positive added
right.
sandwich.
No, that's good.
Um,
And then here's the other part of that, we have to be able to reflect and adjust regularly.
yeah,
Assessing what's working and what's not. We have to evaluate and then change strategies if it's not working. And that's where having an accountability partner is
right.
helpful in that as well, because you can have that conversation with them and they can give you some feedback and then also just being flexible, being able to modify the approach if you have those unexpected challenges coming up.
The other thing about having a good mentor or sponsor, right, a coach, whatever it is, you don't want to be, you want to take their suggestions not with a grain of salt, but like it's a parachute. You're getting ready to jump out of a plane at
Hmm.
40,000 feet, and you got it. It's a parachute that's going to save your life,
Right.
right? There is some people out there that their intentions are so good.
Yeah.
We know that, but the advice they'll give you is
Sometimes
sometimes
can
can be
sometimes
confusing.
yeah.
So
Yeah, we don't want to create more chaos
we don't
when
want that,
when not
right?
necessary. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we just got to be careful also with who we're choosing for our mentors and our
Yeah.
accountability partner. There's two different people there.
Yeah. And I think the final thing that we have here is we really want to stay patient and we
Right,
need to stay persistent.
right.
There's going to be setbacks. Change isn't linear.
No,
It's normal to face occasional setbacks or
absolutely.
lose momentum. And again, having like-minded people or people that are going to encourage you is going to be so important so that you don't lose the momentum. Because if you're doing it all by yourself and you lose momentum, you're going to probably stop.
you're
and go
probably
back to
gonna
the old
stop.
behaviors.
It's usually down the bottom of one of those valleys on this journey up the spiritual mountain. I
Yeah,
mean, it's gonna happen, and it's those times, right, where that failure is not an option comes into play, is that number one, you're not failing.
yeah,
You've gone down a rabbit hole for some reason that there's something down there you have to learn.
right.
It's you're not just being sent down there because you're being punished. Don't ever
No,
think that, right?
no,
So what am I gonna learn while I'm down here?
yeah,
What is it, right? And when you can start understanding that part, what am I learning? I'm not being punished. There's something here I got to understand. That's when your mentors can walk you through this,
mhm,
your sponsors, your coaches. They'll be able to walk you through that process by asking a lot of really curious questions, and they'll walk you out of that
yeah,
valley. And then usually the next plateau you get to will be even prettier than the one that
right.
you had prior to the last
And that's
valley.
why it's so important that when if you get in that place, you just keep going. You
Yeah,
basically face the setback, identify it, refocus on your goals, remind yourself why you started in the beginning.
yeah,
There's
exactly.
always a purpose that. And then the last thing under being patient and persistency is to practice self-compassion.
Right.
We have to be kind with ourselves throughout this process because progress takes time. Like you said at the very beginning, how many years of a certain behavior, certain action,
Right.
certain relationships have you been in? And it's was great for a while until it's no longer great.
It's just a long, yeah.
Now you have to unwind those. So progress takes time.
It I honestly believe this, that if you're a person out there that's walking on the edge right now, you're
Mhm.
struggling, you're not sure, if you listen to that voice deep inside your heart, inside your head, that God gave you, we all have the innate,
Yeah.
we know, knowing that God's in us. If you listen to that voice, if you listen to that tug on your heart, that anxiety that might pop up, or that remorse that's popping up because of something you're thinking about or something you did,
Resentments. Oh my gosh, there's so many
then
things.
stop. You reach out for help. I mean, uh, my emotional bottom was when I had that affair, and I'm telling you what, man, it was the hardest, well, probably the 30 days.
Yeah.
I struggled at nighttime for what I was doing.
Yeah.
I said, "I can't keep doing this. I'm gonna die,"
Yeah.
right? So you'll know,
Yeah.
and it's just a matter of,
Going back to that, getting yourself out of denial and saying, okay, I can't and I need help.
"I need help," and
Yeah.
you have to do it for yourself.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm,
Absolutely. And so, we just want to just remind everybody too, as we close this out, that, starting with small, consistent steps will have a big impact over time.
yes,
But we have to remember meaningful change. You say this all the time. Meaningful change is a marathon, not a sprint.
right, exactly.
The thing is you can't start if you're in denial. So you've got to say, I can't. I'm ready. Let me start my marathon training now.
Alright, and be willing and
Mhm.
open-minded to look at whatever's, brought to you. Find a mentor, a coach, a sponsor that
Mhm.
has what you want. And what we feel is even more important is that has, to some degree, right, walked in your
Right.
shoes. I mean, that's one thing that Kathy and I will say about us.
Yeah.
We've walked
And
we've
that's
walked 10,000 miles. So we've walked 41 years of marriage. We through abuse, through, I mean,
right. And that's kind of where I want to close this with is that, we're talking about, change, take
right,
action. If you are stuck, if you're feeling stuck,
right,
give us a call, reach out to us, check out our website at healandrestorecounseling.com. You're going to find some testimonies that are on there, other people who have been through some hard stuff
right,
and how they've come out on the other side. If you are looking for, if you just think, I just don't know, hey, go to our website, send us a message. We are offering a 45-minute discovery session. There is no cost to you to do this.
right,
I say no cost, that means free. 45 minutes. We want to sit down with you. We can do it in person if you're local. We can do it on Zoom. We want to just get to know you, let you get to know us. And if it's something you decide that you want to move forward on, there's no obligation, but we want to make sure that we give you the best opportunity to get the healing to recover yourself
right,
as you desire.
exactly.
So you can reach out to us, like I said, at our website, healandrestorecounseling.com, or you can email us at healandrestorecounseling@gmail.com.
Right.
And we will get right back to you. We'll set you up. But yeah, it's definitely definitely worth your time.
Yes,
And it's absolutely worth our time. The more
absolutely.
people we can touch, the more people we can help, the more we can all
Right.
become better together.
100%, 100%.
And we got some exciting news this week.
Yeah, we got some good news. Our newest book, Renewing Bonds, 7 Steps to Renewing Your Relationship, is finally complete. It's going through the very last thing. We missed a change on the ISB number and the copyright page.
Yeah.
So that's in there right now. We should have it in the next day or two, but Kindle, it's available on Kindle right now at Amazon. I think that's $7.95, but we're gonna be running a special in December on
Yeah.
that for 10
Yeah.
days. So, and then the paperback book, like I say,
It'll be out. Well, you'll be
it'll
hearing announcements
right,
from us. We'll
yeah.
get all of that out.
It'll
Yeah.
be out before the end of the week, I
Yeah.
guarantee you that,
Yeah.
so.
That's good.
Okay,
Awesome.
awesome possum?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then the upcoming book, that's still got a little work to do,
Yeah.
but we're working on a lot of
Yeah.
things. And remember, well, hey, Cathy put it out on Facebook, but we do this for you. This isn't for us. I mean, we do get stuff out of it, but we do this to help the listener. So if you're out there and you have any certain topic that you would like to hear us talk on, or you have any questions, like a question and answer thing, we got several we're going to be doing a couple of those here in the next part of this month, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
So
It's gonna take a little work, but I'm gonna put it together.
we're gonna get it all together, but please reach out to us and just say, hey, we'd like to hear about this or hear a little bit about that. And if it's something we feel we can do, we would definitely
Yeah,
do
we
it.
had a great response to that, so it might end up being
Yes.
2-part
Probably
Q&A
will be, yeah.
podcast.
So,
We've got enough content
right.
from you, the listeners, so we appreciate that.
Yeah, and then also if you're listening to this, watching this, however you're hearing it, seeing it, do us a giant favor. Takes 2 seconds, doesn't cost you nothing. First of all, share it to everybody you can.
Yep.
Like it and hit the subscribe button for us, please.
Yeah.
So we're trying to build our audience.
Yep, definitely. So
And we very much appreciate
that's
it.
great. Good
Whether you
stuff.
like us or not.
I hope you like us if you're still listening.
Right, yeah.
Oh, that's funny. Okay.
Okay.
Funny.
We good?
Yes.
All right. So remember this, and nobody tells you they love you today. Randy does.
Cathy
But
does.
more importantly, God does. Be blessed, everybody. Have a fabulous week.
Be blessed.